Good afternoon, everybody. I am glad you are sticking around for this session. We hope to make it entertaining and worth your time. Last session of the day. Good. All right. My name is Chris Wendt. I am the Group Program Manager for Microsoft's translation service, powering translation in Office, Internet Explorer, Yammer, SharePoint, and our external partners like Facebook, and about 100,000 more subscribers. And I hope that you become a user of the service as well, certainly trying to make that interesting for you today to use it to internationalize your apps. I'm here with Jen Nelson, who is a program manager in the Windows division, taking care of the multilingual app toolkit that helps with internationalizing the user interface of your applications. And that's just one of his responsibilities. This is about demystifying the internationalization of your applications, making your application accessible to a wide variety of users from different countries speaking different languages. That's really the essence of this session, and hopefully at the end you will leave with the confidence that you can do it and you can do it with ease. So what we're going to do, we're going to walk through adding translation features to your Windows 8 app with the Bing Translator control. Then we talk about the Microsoft Translator API in general that provides the same functionality for all kinds of apps, Windows or not. Not only apps, but also server solutions. Then Jen will walk through the multilingual app toolkit and show you an interesting sample app that uses both the app toolkit to internationalize the user interface and the translation functionality to translate the content within the app itself. And if we have time at the end, I will explain how to customize the automatic translation system to a particular domain, adjusting the terminology and style for the industry of your application or the industry that your customers are active in. I always hit the wrong one here. Just a motivational slide here. What you achieve by internationalizing your application. Just having out an English application gives you 31% of the world's gross domestic product, or the population that makes up 31% of the world's gross domestic product. By adding just Chinese and Japanese, you bump it up to 52%. By having 5 languages, you bump it up to 60%. By having 10 languages, you bump it up to 78%. By adding all 40 plus languages of the Microsoft Translator, you cover about 90%. And that's just on Earth. For the rest, we have Klingon. Just looking at a single market here, San Francisco. 45% of the population around here does not have English as their mother language. Not surprisingly, Spanish and Chinese are at the top here. Was good for me to see that German even makes up a few pixels of this pie chart with 0.5% of the population. German is my native language. Okay, and now we're going right into the demo to show you how you add translation features into a Windows 8 application. I need to switch here. So what we do for this, we install the Bing Translator control. For that, we go to the Bing Developer Center at bing.com/dev. You can try it out right now. You see here a bunch of Bing services that are offering controls or other access methods to consume. So, for instance, you have maps, speech, and translator here. It's actually a good idea to combine translation with a maps or speech application. But I'm just going to show you how to add translation itself into a very simple app. For that, you need to subscribe to the service first. So you have a control that you embed in your Windows application, but in fact it makes use of a web service. The control just makes it easier for you to consume the web service within the application, and you will see once I show you how to do it in C# or a PHP app directly. It's a little more complicated. All right, let me walk through the subscription. Best is if you sign in so it knows your name. So we offer for free a subscription to 2 million characters per month. We chose 2 million characters per month to make it easy for you to build a demo, show it to your customer, get the deal, and then either you or the customer can sign up for higher volumes. And at the end of the session, I'll share with you a method to get the coupon so that you get your a much higher capacity right from the start. All right, but 2 million free is, or 2 million characters is free for everybody. All right, I sign up for this. I need to agree to the terms. So at this point, I already have a subscription. I can see that here. I have a subscription to 2 million characters per month. I already used a little portion of it because I tried this out earlier with this under the same account. So I already used a few characters. Next thing I do is I create the credentials for my applications. Currently, I have no application registered. I think of a client ID. So the credentials for an application are simply a user ID and a password for your application. It's just called client ID and client secret in this case. Let's just take this here. Need to give it a name. Need to give it a password. It needs to be 20 characters long, so I need to really type here. I need to give a redirect URL that is not actually used, but I need to provide it anyway. And I think I don't need to do anything else. Okay, now I have an identity. The nice thing is you can change these identities to disable an app that you have already released and that you don't want to support anymore, for instance. That's the purpose for allowing you to define any number of client IDs and secret pairs for your different applications that you want to manage. All right, download the translator control. Do that here from the Visual Studio gallery. Yep. Open it. All right. Good thing I already have it installed. Okay, so I'm ready to go. Start my application here from scratch. I chose a store app and a blank Windows app. Let's say Translator sample. I open my main page, XAML. It's loading the designer. In my toolbox, I have a Bing section. The translator control was automatically added to this Bing section at the time I installed it. I put this here. The translator control itself has no UI. So you just have other controls on that page that interact with the translator control. My intent here is to just have a simple app that allows the user to type some text and then see the translation of it in a different language. Right, so I place a text box here that functions as the input box, and I take another text box that functions as the output. Let's make this a little bit bigger. Okay. And let's give these a name. So this is text in. And this is text out. And then I need to give the translator control a name as well, trans control. And now it gets interesting. I need to identify my subscription here, and I do that under the miscellaneous settings. So here I provide the client ID. That was San Francisco, if I remember right. And that was the secret. Later on, you learn about the category here. Microsoft Translator supports a number of categories, and you can define your own category for your own preferred terminology and style, and to invoke dictionaries that you have supplied. Microsoft already provides two of these categories, a technical domain and a general purpose domain. Now you can just leave it empty, then you get the same functionality as you see on Bing Translator or within Office. All right, you say the language that you want to translate from. I'm just going to delete this and leave it empty. If you don't provide the language that system should translate from, it will auto-detect what the language is, and we always want to have it translated to English. And that is all that I need to specify here. For the input, we need to provide, we don't want to show a text box, we want to bind it, in fact, to the, let's go back and see here for the translator control. There are additional parameters here, text to translate and text translated. We don't want to provide it here, we want the other controls to bind to that. Okay, so here we add a binding for the text input. That's the text to translate. Element name is the trans control, and mode is two-way. And for this one here, we don't want to show text box. We want to also bind it to the output of the translator control. That's the text translated. And the element name is the trans control. And I think, if I didn't make a mistake, we are good to go. Let me just verify the name. Text to translate and text translated. All right. press F5. My app is starting. Some text of unknown origin. I obviously made a mistake. Let's quickly check. Let's quickly check if I made a mistake here. Oh, did I enter it with a space? Oh, very good. Thank you. And there you get your translation. Let's try if a different language works. All right. Thanks for the help. Okay, let me go and talk about how you do this in, or what else the API offers. I walk you through the function of the Microsoft Translator API. Here we have the SDK. We offer AJAX, REST, and SOAP interfaces. Let me look at the REST interface. Start at the bottom. You find the translate functions here. You have what we just used really is just translate a string. You may as well translate an array of string up to 10,000 characters total. We offer a text-to-speech synthesis, so you can sound out a text if you want the user to hear it. We have a detect method if you just want to figure out the language of a given text. We have a built-in translation memory, so that either you or your users can provide corrections and votes and approvals of sentences, and that gets stored under your account in the built-in translation memory and can then be reproduced just as part of a translate call. So that makes really the integration of human translation and your community with the automatic translation seamless. We have a bunch of other methods that are helpful, for instance, breaking sentences if you want to know where to break a larger document. You don't want to break that in the middle of a sentence, for instance. All right, that's that part. Then I would like to very quickly show how you would do it in C# or in PHP. For that, let me open let me open a different app. And let's look at the main function here. All right, so this is directly composed from the sample that we provide on our SDK. You provide your credentials here. I try to not misspell it this time. This would be painful. Okay, hopefully that's correct. So here you see the actual implementation of it. So you provide your app credentials here. In fact, these app credentials are used with the Azure Access Control Service to exchange it into a token. That is a security measure so that you can concentrate on protecting your credentials and don't have to worry about protecting the token. The token is valid only for 10 minutes, so you can pass the token safely to your app and then have the app make the calls to the translator service. And if it gets stolen, the damage is easily controllable. And so it exchanges the credentials into a token, and then it calls the detect method. So the purpose of this app is to simply detect the language of a string. And we look at the detect method. It asks the user to detect the language. Then here it composes the REST URL to the detect method, simply passing the text to be translated. It uses OAuth to provide a token to the service. And then it simply deserializes the response here. The response is a simple text with a language code. Let's see what that looks like. Pressing F5. Here's the text to translate. Sorry, not to translate, but to detect. And DE is the language code for this. It's German, right? Okay, so this is a sample of how you would add translation, for instance, to a PHP-based web service. All right, I would like to pass it on to Jen to walk you through the method to localize the user interface of your application.
Very good, thank you. So we're going to talk about the Multilingual App Toolkit, which is an extension into Visual Studio. We have it extended into Visual Studio at all SKUs, starting with the Express SKU and then continuing on up into the Ultimate SKU. So irrespective of what flavor you're using, you can get this plugin on MSDN. Anybody have one of these? Did anybody pick one up, a card? Well, you did. Anybody who raised their hand gets a T-shirt. Okay, can you handle that while I take care of this? Okay, there are more cards and there are more T-shirts. Yes, you can have a card. You can have several cards. We've got a bunch of them down here. Okay. So one of the things that you need to think about is, as an app developer, if you're going to go multilingual, you've heard that there are opportunities to increase your exposure worldwide, and that it doesn't take many languages to get a pretty significant uptick in your opportunity. To do that, we really want to reduce the barriers for you. They can be formidable. Pietro Brambati, are you in the room? Can you stand up? Okay. Pietro's got an app, Paint for Kids. Okay, it's in the store. It's had over 750,000 downloads in 10 languages. Okay, not bad. Pietro's used the Multilingual App Toolkit, we're going to call it Matt for short from here on out, to do his work. I think he'd be a great resource for you to talk to after our talk and get some of his feedback about what that's been like. Okay, so we've got somebody in the room who's not me selling this thing, which is free, but has used it with some, I think, considerable success. Okay, so there is a localization workflow embedded in this toolkit. We do have a translation provider, and it is extensible. So what that means is that if you have translation services that you would like to add, perhaps your own translation memories for your own vertical market space or something else, you can do that. We come with a couple of our own. We have the Microsoft Translator service integrated into this toolkit. we have our language portal translation memories of all Microsoft products also available to you, along with the associated terminology. So with that translation workflow, we have resource import, export. For people who have language resources, we provide a standalone string editor that they can have that doesn't cost anything. It's easy for them to download. They don't need Visual Studio or need it on their box to use it. And it supports the platforms you've been hearing about today, the desktop, the phone, and the store. Okay? Let's flip back over to number 8, which is this one. Is that it? That one. There it is. Okay. So I have a hub app here. We've talked about universal apps today. What I want to do with this one is we're going to go ahead and take this solution. You can see our famous CEO here. We felt we needed to have an internal organization chart in our enterprise application. And I have the multilingual app toolkit already loaded. Okay, you can see that it is right here. So the first thing I'm going to do in taking this solution right here is I'm going to go ahead and build it. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and enable that toolkit. Okay? At this point, we want you to make the conscious choice to enable the toolkit rather than doing it automatically, so that you know that that's exactly what's going to happen, because we act on your operating system a bit. If you look right here, let's see if I can bump that in a little bit. Okay, right in here, you see that we've added something. QPS.ploc-xlf. The .xlf stands for XLIF, which is an external industry standard format for managing your localization resources, transporting them back and forth. Okay? And what we're doing with this is we're taking your ResX or ResW or whatever your resource file types are across the 3 platforms we're supporting, and we manage the language versions of those so you don't have to think about it. You can just code the way you want to, and then we'll handle the merge and sync, the export and import functions, and apply the localizations. The ploc itself is interesting in that that has been shipping since Vista as a locale that's inside Windows that you don't see when you look at your language preferences, but you can find it if you search for it. So if we want to take a look real quick at what this is, here's that standalone editor that I was talking about. And you can see that we have the source and now the populated, because I've built target files in this editor. Okay? And I'm just going to close that down for a second. And what I want to do is I want to go ahead and generate a translation. Okay, having done that, I'm going to take another look real quick, just so you can see that you can do this from inside the IDE. And all of a sudden, we see something else going on here. And so, again, I'm going to bump in a little bit here so we can take a look. Come on. There we go. So you can see some interesting things going on over here. You see that we've got some numbers in front of some diacritically marked up words that are kind of readable. You can see original in the top row there. And then you see some exclamation points, some beginning and ending brackets. So just to talk about what that is really briefly, at the beginning we have a unique ID that if you're looking back, referencing back through code, that ID can be very useful for understanding where something has come from in your code. If you look at the markup, you see that we've touched that with our pseudo translation engine, okay? So you know that it was exposed to localization. If it wasn't touched, then it's hard-coded, and that's either by design or it isn't, and you'd know whether there's a bug there or not. On the flip side, if you see something that looks like that and it shouldn't, and it's in your code, you know that you've over-localized it, right? The added bangs that you've got there really help you think about string growth in some languages, and it'll be helpful if you don't know those languages to use this to understand the implications to design in different form factors. So it's got some very interesting uses to help you very quickly in the flow as a developer on your desktop understand a few things about the localizability and the layout of your application. So I'm going to go ahead and close that and come back. Let me get back Okay, so then what I really want to do, though, is I really want to add another language. So let me go ahead and add a translation language. So we have access to a lot of languages here. You could get any one of a couple hundred of them if you want, but right now I'm going to look for French. And the flavor of French I'm going to take is FR, French. Now if you look at that, you'll see that we've got a couple of little icons here. The reddish one is our language portal that our own machine or our own translation memories are stored there, and we've provided an API and access to those as a service. So we translate Office, we translate Skype, we translate Bing, we translate all the Office apps, we translate Windows. All of those translations we keep around, and we call those translation memories. And that service provides access to those translation memories, which might be useful for you in your apps. Okay, if they meet your need, then there they are. We've tested them once across the languages we ship in. For example, in Windows, in our last release, we released in 108 languages. So you'd have some pretty good span there if you found that those were useful. Then just to the right of that, you see another icon, and that's the Microsoft Translator that Chris has been talking about, which is also wired into this system. And so what's important about the left to rightness of this is that we have a translation manager configuration file that you can add to. This is an extensible model, and the order in which they appear in the file is the order in which they appear here, and this is the fallback sequence, so that if there's something that we think is a good match at the beginning, we'll give it to you, and if we don't find something, we'll fall back to the next, and so on and so on. And so you can see that there are two available for French. So we're going to go ahead and accept that. And then all of a sudden what you see is we've added another XLIF file called FR. All right? And I want to populate it, so I'm going to build. Again, this is a thing that we need to do to get it to populate. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and run. Or actually, I'm going to translate. Just a sec here. Let me generate that. It's going out into the world, so it can take a little bit of time here for that to go out, hit that language portal API in Redmond, and grab those translations and bring them back. Okay. So another thing that you need to look at with Windows is how we do our language preferences. And so in the control panel, you can choose them. You can see that we have ENGB, French, the pseudoloc locale, which I searched for up in here by typing QPSPloc, and then it showed up, and then I can add it, which is something you'd want to do for your workstation, and then English. So what I want to do, though, is I want to go ahead and move this French up to the top, okay? And then when I go ahead and run this app that we created, you should see that it's in French, just that easy. So really, there were not that many clicks, although I was talking a lot, to get to the point from an English app to a French app. Okay? So another thing that I want you to think about, or that we were talking about that Chris was suggesting, is the ability to flip. So by integrating the Microsoft Translator into the app, and I'm doing this just with a button. I mean, you could do it automatically. The content that flows through your app is programmatically available for individuals for their language preference on their box, or in this case, even let's say I'm a student of Japanese, and I see something in one language, but I want to see what it looks like in another language to learn it. You could wire it this way. We just did this as for a demo purpose. But you could kind of get the idea of what we're looking at here in the ability to very quickly translate the Chrome of your applications with just a few clicks in the IDE, and then within the app itself be able to leverage Microsoft Translator to provide quick access to content translation. So that's really what I want to say about the Multilingual App Toolkit. I do have 3 more T-shirts and a Nokia pair of headphones if there are questions. Yes. Yes, please.
Hello, yeah. I'm not a software software developer, so this might be an idiotic question. So just so that I've got it right, so the first demo that we saw would be, for instance, if I had a online chat app with a sort of, if I had an end user who wanted to ask me a question, but it was in a foreign language, we could sort of like chat together on the fly. That's the sort of application, right?
That was the demo.
Yeah.
But the application that Jan showed used the content of a corporate database
That was my next question.
present it to the user in the user
So
language.
we develop software that goes to multiple countries. We want to be able to write in one language, translate it once, and then publish it in the multiple languages. And the payment method that you showed in the beginning. So if I understand it correctly, we develop an application, we translate it. It will use your standard engines first. And then if it hasn't got any of the language in there, then it would go to the translator and we'd be charged for that, for the words. You see what I'm getting at?
Yes, so the multilingual app toolkit allows you to translate the app's own resources. And it uses the Microsoft Translator service just to translate the resources. The app might, or the service that you are building, might translate other stuff that is not in the resources. For that, you would subscribe to the translator service, and then pass any text that you want translated through that service, okay, or the control.
The MAT isn't fully free then, right?
No. So there's another piece. MAT itself is fully free, and the use of the Microsoft Translator service within MAT to do the application strings itself is unlimited. It's totally free.
Right, okay.
It's using the translator as a service out there in a broader context.
Yeah.
That's where you start looking at how many translation units and what kind of subscription model you need to support your business.
Yeah, but we still have the ability to bring in our own stuff anyway to run in the MAT as well.
Yeah, but in MAT, there's no cost.
Imagine that Jan already paid for the use of the translation service
I keep
within
paying for it.
MAT.
All right.
But if you build your own app, you subscribe yourself.
All right.
What you can also do is you can have your customer subscribe to the service, right?
Hi. I have started using MAT in an app that's going to be very low cost. It seems to translate beautifully. Well, I don't know. I don't know any other languages. So my question is along those lines. If I say, oh, I'm going to support 30 languages because it's so easy, what are the odds that if I don't hire a professional translation service, but I just use the automatically generated translations, that I'm going to offend people in other countries?
Yeah, that's great. That's brilliant, and that's worth a T-shirt right there to ask that question.
I don't need a T-shirt, thank you.
Well, okay. So we all know, and it's a great question, we all know that human translation is the highest fidelity translation you can get, although mistakes can happen there as well. It depends upon the criticality of your app and whether or not your community, which is unique to you, has the tolerance to give you feedback, okay? And so if you provide in your About page or someplace that, you know what, this is done by machine, and if you have a suggestion for something better, email me, happy to take it, and you have that bond of relationship with them.
That's a good idea.
That's one method you could do that keeps it really low cost, and you can try it and see. Again, Pietro can talk about what's happened for him across 750,000 times 10 languages, and that might give you some statistical something to stand on. But certainly, machines alone don't replicate what humans can do for quality. So we're not going to suggest that at all, ever. And we want you to be feeling like you have that responsibility for the linguistic quality of what you're doing, even if you don't speak those languages. So consider how many languages you need, right, to reach your markets, and be thoughtful about how you're going to answer that.
Okay. You have a fully human-powered translation workflow in MAT as well, so you have the choice. You don't have to go with the automatic
I haven't shown it to you, but you can very easily right-click on your resources and say Mail To, and we zip them up for you with that XLIF inside a compressed folder. You can grab all of them or some of them and send them to different people. We have the link to the standalone editor embedded in that email if they don't have their own, if they're not professional translators and don't have their own systems. So it's fairly straightforward, very simple, and a complete end-to-end environment to get you going, get you in the game.
Okay,
Pl-
great.
Plus, can I add? Plus, the tool adds the automatic translation already in the resources for your translators to work off, for your human translators to work off. And expectedly, they can do their job either faster or cheaper by post-editing the automatic translation up to human translation quality.
Are you saying by automatically sending out these tools that you have professional translation services already lined up that even though I would pay them, I don't have to find them?
So that's a great question also. That sounds like a great future scenario, and thank you for the feedback.
Okay.
Yes.
Most of my questions was asked by him, but what about like formatting of the UI? Like I know I had something translated into German once, and it blew all my formatting completely because all the words in German are so long. How does the tool deal with that? Does it try to adjust based on length? Is it purely this is what we think it should be translated as?
So what we do is we give you longer strings, and you can either go ahead and use the machine translation of German and see what its impact is on your design and your designer and make your own adjustments, or you could use the pseudo language to do it, but we don't auto-scale based on that for you. If you set auto-sizing as a feature in how you're programming, that might do it, but it might not look right. And so when I think about phones versus tablets versus PCs versus televisions, there's a lot of real estate differences. And you may need to make a comment in what you're sending out saying to a translation house or somebody who's going to translate it saying, you know, in German, the suggestion was that we're sending is like this long, and I really need it to fit in this. Do you have a different word for me? Okay? So you can take a look. You can see it at your desktop before you send it out, and then you can know where you're going to have some design challenges yourself and make notes of those. We have comment fields you could go ahead and comment away before you hand things off. Okay? There's a T-shirt here. Yeah, absolutely.
Can we do the gentleman here in the front?
Yeah, we've got a gentleman right here in the front.
Maybe you can step up to the microphone.
Yeah.
Okay, the first question is related to the thing that you said that if we have time, you will be able to show. I'm especially interested in the dictionaries that you already have.
Okay.
Since, and to be honest, I'm wondering whether in this Microsoft, I don't remember the name that you, dictionaries, okay, if you also put apart from Office, Windows, the enterprise applications like Dynamics, Axapta, CRM.
Yes.
So if we can, and if we are allowed to take also advantage of the translation that you already have for domestic ERP systems, not Microsoft ERP systems.
Yeah,
For
so
the translation of tokens of
that's
those
right.
related apps.
That's right. So the apps that you develop inside Visual Studio using the multilingual app toolkit, you have access to the translation memories of Microsoft products.
And if I'm not for any reason, we are not able to use the the translation toolkit, but we are actually interested in the translation services. We have our tokens in Excel, in XMLs, in databases. Can we take advantage of that kind of resources, or it's strictly for internal use?
No, so you can use the Microsoft Translator service, and it supports two domains out of the box.
The technical
one is a general, one is the technical. And the technical one is trained on Microsoft's and, in fact, some of its competitors in the software industry. So the technical domain is trained on software technical material and will translate that material better than, say, the general domain purpose. Say, take the word boot. Right? Boot is really translated as starting up your computer rather than...
I was actually thinking of more close to accounting, like debit, credit, and things like that. Is this in the technical, or it's software engineering technical?
So we do not provide
a dictionary for accounting.
So maybe let's take 3 more questions, and then I will show how you train your own system with that, with material that you or your customer already has in the domain.
There you go. Okay, next question.
Mine's pretty simple. I've got a legacy application built in Microsoft Foundation classes. And I'm hoping that the toolkit might offer some things that might support our translation efforts.
Okay. Cameron, we have another person in the back of the room back here, Cameron Laram. Cameron, if you could step to the mic. Cameron is one of the co-creators of the Multilingual App Toolkit, and I think probably can feel where we are and what we might be capable of doing for you.
Okay, yeah, so with the release of 3.0, which I just published this morning, literally during breakfast I was pushing the button at the table, we support WPF, ASP.NET, and WinForms. His technology is easy to support. I don't remember if we turned that bit on or not, but I gave him a card and we can talk to him later about what he can do to solve his
Okay.
concerns with that.
Would you be interested in a set of Nokia headphones by chance? Come on down. Okay, another question.
So I think he just answered the question. Does this exist for ASP.NET Web?
Cameron?
Sorry, I was having a sidebar conversation.
Yeah.
ASP.NET Web? Yes.
I'd have to double check on that. ASP.NET MVC for sure. So yes.
In one of the slides that was up there, you showed the translation strings that looked kind of funny, and you were going to get back to what do these exclamation points mean at the end. Does that relate to the length of the string and whether you're going to blow out of the...
It does. Yeah, that's a configurable value that you can set. And we use those for a variety of reasons inside Microsoft, and something that, so that we're offering as something that we've done internally on our own engineering for a long time with pseudo-localization. And if you think about an exclamation point, it doesn't take a lot of real estate, but it can represent counting characters. And so if you have a character limitation in your field, you know, you can truncate stuff, and so we can pretty easily show that. We can also then show the growth and see if there's something going on where your design's just wrong because you're going to get this really long string. So it's an emulator that you don't need to learn German or some other more exotic language to see what's going to go on, because with the diacritic markup and all that other stuff, you can see through that and still read your English, if you will, through it. Okay. So but again, you can play with that. You can go ahead and set the values of that if you feel like there's too many of those, but it's kind of set for sort of a 30% string growth so that you could emulate from English to German as an example.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
And one strictly software engineering from curiosity question. Does it support, even the toolkit, some of the strings are messages. And when we are, as developers, sending messages, we have those bracket 0, bracket 1, like old-fashioned way, printf, like string dot format. Have you taken into account such kind of tokens during the translation, especially within the map toolkit, the translation toolkit?
Yes. Yeah.
How would it work in the video context if I have the transcription and if I wanted to translate it to different languages?
If you could get the transcription into a format that we can act on, that's fine.
So what would you take? So usually the transcription is in the SRT or say BTT format. So how would you take that and translate it?
So the translator API takes a string or HTML, a plain text or HTML. You would have to transform it to one of these formats.
Okay. So basically I just need to bring it to the application, send you a string. So
exactly.
you could translate
exactly.
and send it back.
Exactly. You can simply have a utility that parses your original format, say the SRT file, and just it takes the translatable. SRT has more than just translatable strings, and you would have to parse that yourself, right? Or find an existing parser. Maybe there is.
See, would you see any? Because I know that you have speech recognition.
Yes.
So you would be taking. Would you be able to take video and say, as a feature, you would take the video, you would do speech recognition,
Yes.
transcribe it. I heard that the accuracy is right now is 99%. With one of your research lab, I heard that you're running one of the products that does very accurate transcription. So is that true? And then you would take it and then from there you translate it?
Yes, you can do that. ASR, the speech recognition, gives you a plain text string of the top candidate that it recognized.
So is there anything in Microsoft Research Labs that does ASR with 95% accuracy? And then we could translate it?
Yes, you can do that. And yes, there is heavy research on speech recognition as there is on automatic translation. And it takes a little bit until it is available in all products. But on the Bing Developer Center that I showed in the beginning, there's information on how you use the speech recognition API.
Thanks.
Yep.
So we were going to take time to show the Translator Hub and how you could create some unique domains, but we are out of time in terms of scheduled time. It's at the end of your day. We do have business cards. We've got handouts here. And one of the things that you can see when you look at the slide deck itself, we have links to resources. If you take one of these business...
We should take that.
Okay.
We should just go through that.
If you take a look at the business cards, you'll see that there's an email address, multilingual@microsoft.com. That goes to Cameron and myself, the Multilingual App Toolkit team, where we pay attention to that. There are other links on that card that we pay attention to.
It's coming up.
Okay, that's great.
Let's just use it. We still have 5 minutes, right?
Hi. I have one question. I came a little late. I don't know how many languages you support. You said 40 languages. Is there any chance you list the languages there?
Yes. We can, let's do that at the end of the session, or you can go on your own devices. You can go to bing.com/translator and look at the language drop-down.
Sure.
The hub allows you to add support for additional languages yourself. In fact, that was what it was originally invented for, to engage with communities that work on language preservation or just want to add their own language. And several of them have done that successfully. Just recently, we added Welsh, which was done by the Welsh Assembly in Wales themselves. And Hmong, which was done by the Hmong-speaking community, in fact, in California. All right, so the hub gives you the ability to train a customized machine translation system based on previously translated documents and dictionaries. The dictionaries are optional, but previously translated documents are required. Dictionaries just give you the ability to force a certain translation, as opposed to having the system learn it probabilistically from your previously translated material. So you simply upload the documents that you have available, either you or your customer has available, and hit train on the hub user interface, and it will build that automatic translation system for you. Then you can inspect the quality of it. And you also get an automatic test as part of it, which gives you a score of how much you improved it over the generic system. Then you hit deploy, and at that point, it becomes part of, your custom system becomes part of the Microsoft Translator API, and you can call it by any of the methods that you have seen today. You saw the category ID field that I skipped. I didn't enter it. I skipped it, so it will use the generic engine, but if you give a category ID, you can refer to your own customized system that uses the previously translated documents and dictionaries. And the same works for MAT as well. MAT allows you to enter this category string so that the UI can satisfy the domain that you are targeting. So I can give you a private demo of this later on. Here's a bunch of resources and demos that you can exercise on your own. A couple hints on other sessions that you might want to look over if you're interested in this topic. I can recommend Cameron's session that's happening on Friday morning at 9.
That's Apps Without Borders winning globally with the Windows platform.
The last one on this. The other two, in fact, they already happened, but you can watch them on Channel 9. Then here's our context our contact information. That's translator@microsoft.com for the translation service and multilingual for Matt. A couple of things that you can start doing today with the Bing Translator Control, the API, and Matt itself. As a bonus for staying late and listening to the session, you get, in fact, a coupon for 32 million characters. Just send a mail to a translator@microsoft.com, say that you attended this session, and you will get it in the mail. You need to do that before Saturday, though. All right. And we already had the question.
We did. Thank you so very much.
Thanks for coming.